Okay, we are recording. So any questions, any concerns in any of the slokas, whether it is about word breakdown, meaning, or how to chant? If you have any of those questions, I'll take those now. Otherwise, we can move into the actual Vishnu Sahasranamam. Okay, looks like everybody's good. Fantastic.
Yes, that's good. We'll go ahead.
Awesome. So moving forward, I will emphasize very much on, as I mentioned, there are a few nuances to how we chant. It's okay to chant just, Sanskrit slokas, some you're reading theory. It's okay to chant here, like, or read a bit here and there, that's fine. But now we are actually entering into the names of Lord Vishnu. Sanskrit, or I would prefer to call it Sanskritam, is a very specific and very conscious language. A minor change in how we pronounce or how we write will change the meaning of the sloka or of the word. So I want to just emphasize on a few points, like what we call as Alpa Prana and Mahaprana. So I'll explain what that is. So thankfully, I think most of the regional languages have been derived from Sanskritam, so our alphabet is very similar to the original Sanskrit alphabet. So if we look at, say, the first consonant, the first line of the consonants, we have ka, kha, ga, gha, nya, right? So the second kha is a emphatic kha. But if you have two of the smaller khs, that pronunciation is very different than if you had the second kha, the second kha, the ka, kha. Whereas if you have the first one, ka, with a like ka again, then that becomes ka, not kha. So you have to understand these minor nuances. So the first one is called the Alpa Prana, ka. Kha is Mahaprana. Then the next observation we need to have is the Hrasvam and the Dhirgam. Hrasvam, as we know, is what we call as one matra, ka, which takes, like, one split second or one snap. That is ka. And the long one, Dhirgam, has two of those snaps or two split seconds, which is ka. There are other ones when we are chanting Veda or learning Veda, we will be taught few more. There is Plutam, which is like 3, and there is a 3.5. There are some other variations of it. We will not go into it because we won't need it for Vishnu Sahasranamam or even Lalita Sahasranamam for that matter. So we need Hrasvam and Dhirgam. So these are important to know. The third one I want to emphasize is the two dots that are beside the letters. That is called as Visargam. The Visarga is the representation of aha. When we read the vowels from R to aha, so the Visarga represents that aha. And it is very important in Sanskritam because it represents the masculine names. Usually, all the nouns, masculine nouns, have those visargas. So don't hesitate, because we are not used to saying visarga so often in our regional languages. Somehow it got cut off in while during the periods. But it's important to actually pronounce it when it comes to chanting slokas. For example, in the first line of the first sloka of Vishnu Sahasranamam, at the end, we have Prabhu. It is not Prabhu. The difference is Prabhu is the name of Bhagavan. And if you say Prabhu, then you are saying, hey Prabhu, like you are calling that person, you are addressing that person. So in Sanskritam, we call it the first vibhakti to the seventh vibhakti. There is a huge difference. So when we say Prabhu, we say Prabhu. When it is Prabhu, we'll specifically say Prabhu. Because I'm not hearing most of you chant, because most of us will be chanting on mute, I'm emphasizing on some of these points. If I pronounce it as Prabhu, please don't hesitate to pronounce it with that visarga. So, with that kind of intro, I think we can enter into first shloka. Who would like to chant along with me?
Jayashree here, I can.
Namaste, Jayashree ji. Thank you. Okay. So we'll break the sloka first into how many words there are and how many namas there are in that sloka. The first
Okay.
namam is Vishwam. The second namam is Vishnur Vashat. Vishwam. Vishnuhu is the second namam. Vashatkaraha is the third namam. Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhuhu. It is all one particular namam. It's all one word or one phrase of a namam. So that's fourth. Bhuta Krit, Bhuta Bhrit, Bhavaha, Bhutatma, Bhuta Bhavanaha. So Bhuta Bhavanaha is also one namam. So how many did we get? So Vishwam, Vishnuhu, Vashatkaraha, Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhuhu, Bhuta Krit, Bhuta Bhrit, Bhavaha, Bhutatma, Bhuta Bhavanaha. So there are 9 namas in this particular sloka. So we'll learn to chant the sloka again 2 times, then we'll go read what that means according to. Now we will all, as I mentioned, the Dhyana sloka's commentary was not written by Shankaracharya. Namas have been commentated by him. So once we chant the sloka, we learn it twice, we'll go and read the meaning and we understand the meaning, like nice deeper meanings. And then we'll chant one more time before we move into next sloka. I hope that format works for everybody.
Shriji, can you repeat the 9 namas one more time,
Oh,
please?
absolutely. Vishwam, Vishnuhu, Vashatkaraha, Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhuhu is one nama. Bhutakrit, Bhutabhrit, Bhavaha, Bhutatma, Bhuta Bhavanaha is again one nama. Okay?
Thank you.
No problem. So we'll chant the Snokam now. So I'm actually thinking, hesitating to do the breakdown because the tune of Vishnu Sahasranamam will change if we break it at the one quartlet. So I'm actually thinking, how do we do this? So generally, the most popular way of chanting it, and that's exactly how it should be chanted. It's not about the popularity. That's how it should be chanted. I'll just chant once. Vishwam Vishnurva Shatkaro Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu Bhuta Krit Bhuta Brudbhavo Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha. That's how it's chanted. Now I have to break it at Vishwam Vishnurva Shatkaro, so it is easier for us to learn. So we'll learn as quartlets, I guess, wherever it is applicable. And then when we do the final one, then we'll do the full line one by one. Okay?
That is correct. Because we are all students, so we have to learn like that.
Okay, perfect. So the tune will change a little bit. That's what I'm hesitant on, right?
That is fine because as long as we learn.
Okay, sounds good. Vishwam Vishnurvashatkaro
Vishwam Vishnurvashatkaro
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu.
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhuhu.
So I'll repeat one more time. The bhu here is the Mahaprana. It is the second bha. So we'll have to all the bhas in this, like there are 4 bhas and all 4 are the Mahaprana. So we'll chant one more time. Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu.
Bhuta
Bhuta
Bhavya Bhavat
Bhavya
Prabhu.
Bhavat Prabhuhu.
Sorry, there is a bit of background noise again. Sorry, I'll have to mute everybody. And Jai Shri ji, if you can unmute yourself, that'd be great. Thank you. Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu.
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhuhu.
Bhuta Krit Bhuta Bhridbhavo.
Bhuta Krit Bhuta Brit Bhavo.
Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha.
Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha.
Awesome. So all the bhas, I think I'm just looking at the sloka, all bhas are the second bha. It is not ba, it is bha. Okay, we'll chant one more time, please. Vishvam Vishnur Vashatkaro
विश्वं विष्णुर्वषत्कारो
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu
भूतभव्यभवत् प्रभुः
Bhuta Krit Bhuta Bhrudbhavo. Sorry, I'll do it one more time. Bhuta Krit Bhuta Bhrudbhavo
भूतकृत् भूतभृद्भावो
Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha.
भूतात्मा भूतभावनः.
Awesome. So we'll do the meanings and then we'll chant one more time. So once we understand the meanings, I think the pleasure of chanting that sloka will like increase multifold. So the first namam is the most like, all the namas are beautiful. So the first namam itself is Vishwam. We all know what the meaning of Vishwam is. It's the universe or the cause of the universe, the Brahman, the Omkara. You can give it any name, but he is the whole universe itself. So again, we can think of like, Purana. So Bhagavan is in Vaikuntham, or Bhagavan is in Kailasam, or Bhagavan is in this form or this temple. While all of that is beautiful, yes, they all exist, but the whole universe is Bhagavan. So he is the creator, and he did not just create and sat outside of this universe, but he himself has become the universe. And in Vedanta, there is a beautiful parlance or a beautiful analogy that gets given. So I'm going to share that. So the technical term in Vedanta for this is abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. So I won't stress, like, I won't ask you to write these down, but it is about understanding the meaning, right? So that's why I'm actually providing this information. So when we say abhinna nimitta upadana karanam, it actually means that he is the material cause and there is a specific word for it. Sorry, it misses my mind. It skips my mind right now. But essentially, he is the sankalpam behind the universe. He wanted to create it and he became the material to create it. And they give an example. Adi Shankaracharya gives a beautiful example or analogy of either the goldsmith or the carpenter. And like, some of these analogies Shankaracharya uses across so many of all his commentaries. It's the same analogies he uses. He doesn't change them. So it just gets nailed into your head. So so I'll explain it the way Shankaracharya explains. So think about a carpenter. Okay. So for a carpenter to make a table or a chair, he has to have a few things to get started. One, he needs a place to sit. He needs some wood, and he needs some tools to start carving the wood and then making the chair or table out of it. So Shankaracharya asks this question: if Bhagavan had place to sit and there was wood existing already before him, then he cannot be Bhagavan because there were things before him. So we are looking at or looking for who was the original cause of all of this, right? So if wood was before him, then wood should be Bhagavan, isn't it? But that's not the case. Bhagavan is the one who is the creator of everything. So where did the material to create came from? Or where did the tools to create the universe come from? So he is both the material cause and the intellectual cause behind the universe. And the example that gets given to understand this concept in our day-to-day life is the example of spider. So the spider wants to weave a web. So it has a sankalpam to weave its home. And then from its body, it generates this thread through using which it weaves its own universe or its own little home. Unlike, say, birds or humans or anybody else, birds collect all the twigs or whatever they want to create their nest with, and they collect from outside and they bring it and they put it all together to make a home. But spider is the only one which is very similar to the concept that we are trying to learn, where it wants to create a home and then it starts generating that thread from within itself and creates the web, and that is what becomes its home. Similarly, the sankalpam was to create the universe was Bhagavan, as well as the material that the universe has been created is also coming from within Bhagavan. So, in that sense, if he became the universe, then he is also dwelling within the universe. He is not sitting somewhere in the clouds or somewhere in Kailasham or somewhere in Vaikuntham. Yes, those exist. Maybe in a concentrated form of Bhagavan exists in those places, but he is available to us in the form of universe. So the concept, once you start learning the deeper meanings, and you will understand how deep our our forefathers have thought about this, how much research they have done. They explain it in a very beautiful way. So I may not be able to do justice to what they're trying to tell us. I'll try my best. But he is the indweller. He is dwelling within the universe, within the realms of what has been created as part of the universe. So therefore, Vishwam is the whole universe itself is Bhagavan. Okay, I hope that's clear. Now we'll move to the next namam, Vishnuhu. Here it is again emphasizing what we were talking about in Vishwam. They're saying the creator of the universe. And in Vishnuhu, the name itself means the all pervading. He's not concentrated in one place, but he's pervading the whole entire universe that exists. So when we talk about the science, quantum physics and particle theory and things like that, so think about Big Bang. If you have watched any of the NASA documentaries, think of the Big Bang. There was one particular dot, like, God's particle, a very small, minutest particle that was available, which was bubbling with so much energy. And with one Big Bang, it exploded into becoming this universe. Within seconds and minutes, it just light years of universe was created. Until that moment, there was no time or space, but suddenly space started expanding and time started ticking. So think from that concept how Bhagavan has started creating the universe. And Purusha Suktam actually talks about Big Bang theory. So Vishnuhu is somebody who has pervaded everything that exists in the universe. Okay. So I'll read a little bit from Shankaracharya's Bhashyam. So far, I've explained what I learned from Vedanta. So now let's look at. So, of course, as I mentioned previously, I think in one of the previous lessons or classes we had, the word Vishnuhu has three different ways to define it in Sanskritam. Veshti Vyapnoti iti Vishnuhu or Vishwameti Vyapnoti iti Vishnuhu. Basically, the one who expands or Vyaptam Karoti or Vyapnoti. That is Vishnu. So, let's see. The word Vishnu takes its derivation from the root vis, to enter or permeate. Because this whole world has been pervaded by the energy of the Great Self, he is named Vishnu. From the root vis, to enter or pervade. As I have pervaded the horizons, my glory stands foremost, and as I have measured by steps the three worlds, O Arjuna, I am named Vishnu. So says the Mahabharata Shanti Parvam. So that is the explanation for Vishnu. We'll move to the next one, which is also a fantastic, a beautiful namam, Vashatkaraha. Let me know if I'm going at a pace that you like. Am I too fast, too slow? Do you need this much description or just chanting? Any comments before we proceed further?
Yeah, I think this is fine, and you're not going fast. It's okay for me, but I don't know about others. But I think with meanings, it makes more sense and very nice than to go through later on.
Awesome. Any other comments? Anybody else?
This is
This is
perfect.
my first time listening to this, and I think it's awesome.
Okay, that's great to hear. So, Vashatkaraha, he is the holy expression Vashat. So, if you have attended homas, there is a particular word. Of course, there is the swaha, which is also super important when we say that. And at the end, they also say Vashat. So, he is that expression. So, this is the technical term with which like oblations are offered, right? And he on whose account Vashatkara is offered, or that sacrifice in which Vashatkara is offered. Ultimately, the simplest form of explaining this is he is the receiver of all the oblations that go into the homa. So when we look at, so there is, so we create the homa kundam, and then there is fire within it. So fire god becomes Agni, becomes the medium. What I think, sorry, I'm going to mute one more time. I hear some beautiful girl's voice. Okay, I'll mute. So Agni is considered the medium. There is a Greek god by, I'm trying to recollect the name. I don't know Greek god so much, but they are called the messenger god. So Agni Devata forms the messenger to take our oblations, whatever we are offering to Bhagavan, and he Agni Devata takes them to the Bhagavans. And the homam itself, or the Homakundam itself, or what we are offering to is Vashatkara, and that Vashatkara is nothing but Lord Vishnu. So here, let's see what Shankaracharya writes for this. Because he pleases the gods by himself being one with Vashatkara and other mantras, or Vashatkara is the name of the deity. The Shruti says the Lord Prajapati and Vashatkara. The Smriti also, so in Vishnu Smriti, he who is invoked in sacrifices by such mantras as the four-syllabled Ashravaya, the four-syllabled Astu Shraushata, and the two-syllabled Yaha, the five-syllabled Ye Yajamahe, and the two-syllabled Vaushat, let that Vishnu be pleased with me. So that is for Vashatkara. I hope that's clear. The next one is Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu. It's all one namam. And essentially what we are saying, Bhuta, we know, is the Bhuta Kala, Bhavya is the Bhavishyat Kalam, and Bhavat is the future tense. So he is the Lord or the Prabhu of the past, the present, as well as the future. Because his power consists in his having the absolute existence associated with any idea of time. Think about it. The whole universe was created by him, and that's when even the space and time started happening, or the material and energy has started getting created. So he has control on the all factors or all facets of time. So he knows he is the Lord of the present, past, as well as the future. Okay? The next one is Bhutakrit. He is the creator of beings. He creates all beings, assuming the quality of Rajas. So we'll go into Trigunas for a little bit so there is some understanding. The whole universe is formed of three gunas. I don't know how to translate that. There should be a word for translation, but it won't translate exactly as Sanskritam. So they are Sattva Gunam, Rajo Gunam, and Tamo Gunam. Sattva Gunam is about maintenance. So there are quite a few factors to it, but we'll only take what's relevant here. Sattva Gunam is about sustenance, maintenance, and stability. Rajo Gunam is action oriented, and Tamo Gunam is more destruction oriented. So here, he creates all beings, assuming first he needs to act, right? So in order to act, he has taken the action. Therefore, he needed Rajogunam to do that in the form of Virinchi or the Brahmaji. And he is the Bhutakrit, which is the next, the Bhutakrit, which is also means that he withdraws the beings in his tamo guna aspect as Rudra. So even science is now learning in the last 100 years or so, or 70 years or so, since Hubble telescope has been put in place, that the world is, or the universe is expanding and is still continuing to expand. So it started some 13 billion years ago when the Big Bang has happened in this creation. There were multiple creations according to our Vedas, which I completely believe in. So it's almost like anything that expands has to contract back. So the annihilation part has to happen. So there is this constant manifestation of the universe and unmanifestation of the universe that needs to go on as cycles, just like anything, right? So even science is now accepting, yes, we are currently still expanding at in an immense space. At some point in probably some billion years, we don't know that, it'll start contracting back to become that one single God's particle, which is the unmanifestation part of the universe. So here Bhutakrit means he assumed the quality of, he's the creator of the beings. So he has taken the form of Virinchi or Brahma. Using Rajogunam, he created the universe. And at some point, he will withdraw it back using the Tamogunam of, as in the aspect of Rudra. The next Namam is Bhutabhrit, the sustainer of beings. So once the creation has been created, there has to be somebody who sustains it, right? So he supports or protects all beings using his Satvika Gunam. So he is the sustainer. So in this one, I'll just read in Sanskritam what Shankaracharya writes. Prapancha rupena bhavati iti kevalam bhavatityeva va bhavaha. Bhavanam bhavaha sattatmako va. So it's a beautiful expression where he says, if there is prapancham, then it cannot just be existing on its own. Does it live on its own? No, there has to be a sustainer for this. And Bhagavan is taking that sustainer form, and that namam is Bhutabhrit. The next namam is Bhavaha, the absolute existence. He expands himself as the universe or remains as pure existence. He is existing in and around us in everything we see or we don't see, the visible, the invisible, the manifested, the unmanifested forms. He is literally the air that you're breathing. He is the table that you're sitting at. He is a chair. He is everything that became the universe. So now that actually brings us this respect for everything that we have, right? Think about the garbage you're throwing away. How much respect should we have for that? Where did all of that come from? Where did the food come from? How is all of this getting generated so we can sustain our lives? There was one exercise I was providing to some other class, trying to explain or think about your meal in one day. Try to think about the number of people that had to work to get that plate of food in front of you. How much of effort, and some of those people have not just been doing for their own cause, we've seen so many of the farmers now moving into cities and trying to find other jobs and things like that. But think about, if nobody cultivates and does agriculture, how are we going to get food? How many people have to work in order for us to sustain or have a single meal? So it just generates this immense respect for everything around us when we know everything that is around is nothing but Bhagavan himself. Then the next term is, or the next namam, eighth one we are looking at, is Bhutatma, the self of beings. So the inner ruler of beings. So there is a beautiful, I'm just looking for only one particular line from Narayana Suktam. Narayana Suktam explains how Bhagavan lives within us. It's a beautiful, beautiful Suktam. If you have already learned it, please chant it every day. It's just amazing. So there is one particular one, sorry, even in Mahanarayana Upanishad, there is this term called Dahram Vipapam Parameshma Bhutam Yat Pundarikam Puramadhya Sagastam. So somebody who is living in the Daharakasha or the Pundarika, or somebody who is living within us. If he has pervaded everything, he's pervading us too, right? He has to be within me, within you, within everything. And he's the one, when it comes to any of the living beings, he's taking two different aspects of it, and I'll explain it as we get a little further. I don't want to overwhelm with you on day one of all the Vedanta aspects. But there is a difference between a living and a non-living, an animate or inanimate thing in the universe that he has created. So there is a difference between that. So we'll get into that, the details of why so and things like that at some point. But if I am aware, I'm conscious, I'm a living being, and the one living within me to make me conscious is nothing but Bhagavan. So we are already 2 minutes over, but I would, because it's there's only one Dhamam left, I'll quickly go through it and we'll conclude there. Bhuta Bhavanaha, the generator of beings, or he generates or nourishes beings. So these are the 9 namas in sloka 1. So hopefully from next week onwards, we'll go with a little more pace so we can finish a few more slokas. I'm assuming some of you joined for meaning and some of you joined for learning Vishnu Sahasranamam to chant. So I'll try to balance those two aspects. But I personally feel that if you know the meaning, how you chant will change. So even if you chanted the 108 slokas quickly without knowing the meaning, may be very different than if you just chanted one sloka that you know the meaning for. That's my personal view. So we'll conclude here and with just chanting this sloka one more time, and we'll move to sloka 2 from next week onwards. So would somebody else chant along with me? Would you like to?
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Vishwam Vishnurvashatkaro
Vishnuam Vishnurvashatkaro
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu
Bhuta Krit Bhuta Bhrudbhavo
Bhuta Krit Bhuta Bhritbhavo
Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha.
Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha
We'll do it one more time, please. Vishwam Vishnurvashatkaro
Vishwam Vishnurvashatkaro
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu
Bhuta Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu
Bhuta Krit Bhuta Bhrudbhavo
Bhuta Krit Bhuta Bhrutbhavo
Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha.
Bhutatma Bhuta Bhavanaha.
Awesome. I hope you all enjoyed Sloka 1. We'll move to Sloka 2 next week. We'll conclude with a short prayer. ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्तिः 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 हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु. Sarvam Sriman Narayana Charanaravindarpanamastu. Thank you so much for joining. Have a wonderful day. We'll catch up. Those who are joining the Lalita Sahasranamam class will log into the other ID that I sent in the Lalita Sahasranamam group, and we'll catch up on that line at 10 o'clock.
Thank you, Shriji.
Thank you.